Welcome back to another Advocacy Update. I'm Jennifer Goodale, and this is my colleague Mark Belinsky from the Government Relations team. And so today we want to talk to you a little bit about continuing resolutions.
It's a tough time of year. Lawmakers are getting ready to come back from summer recess, and they're already talking about a stopgap measure, which is code for a continuing resolution rather than passing the budget on time. And it's a frustrating event because Congress actually makes and sets its own schedule. But as we approach the end of the fiscal year, if we don't have a budget, really an appropriations bill,
right,
then two things can happen. We can either have a continuing resolution, which is tough because it basically funds the Department of Defense with last year's funding, but there's no new starts and no new stops. Or we can go into a government shutdown. And it's pretty rough right now because there's some folks who are saying, well, maybe a government shutdown is the right thing to do.
Okay. When's the last time Congress passed a full appropriations on time?
It has been a long time.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. So I jotted down a little note from a GAO report, 47 continuing resolutions between 2010 and 2022. Some of those are a day or a week long, just to get to the next evolution. But 47 is crazy, right?
It is, but it's important to realize that it's more crazy when we account for how it's wasting taxpayers' dollars.
Right.
It comes down to the details. So every construction project that's supposed to start, say for building a new barracks or building new family housing or a new child development center, all of those contracts that were, signed and locked in, well, those can't start. And when the government finally does decide to get running again, and we do get an appropriations bill, those all now cost more because you had to keep folks' labor on hold, you had the project on hold, and now a lot of contractors try to write in, those contingency plans because continuing resolutions happen every year.
Right.
It's a tough thing that when everybody starts to plan for the continuing resolution.
All right. I want to talk to you a little bit about shutdowns and how that impacts uniformed service members. So we've had shutdowns in 2014, 2018, and 2019 most recently. How did that impact, let's say, the Coast Guard?
So the last government shutdown was absolutely awful for Coast Guard, NOAA, and United States Public Health Service, as they continued to work and do their vital job every day, but they didn't get paid for 35 days. And that is a awful message to send to service members and their families, particularly when we're in a recruiting crisis.
Right.
And DoD service members are not necessarily guaranteed to always receive their paycheck during a government shutdown. Although over the last couple decades during government shutdowns, DoD service members have continued to receive their pay. But I can remember, late 1990s where there were stories about young platoon leaders having to march their platoon down to the emergency relief center so they could all get loans and pay the end of month bills. So it is awful to have that threat on folks who are serving every day to protect the country. But it also shuts down. It shuts down travel. It can disrupt training events. It can disrupt all sorts of other important things, let alone our reserve component. It can sometimes affect drill weekends. So it's painful for all.
Well, the important thing to remember is that, because when we go to the Hill, they say, but they're getting paid. They'll get paid when the government opens up again. 35 days of no pay means you're now delinquent on a credit card payment or a car payment or something else, and it's a trickle-down effect that can have really negative consequences over time.
Sure. I think the other piece is it also eats at the personal identity of a lot of service members. They don't want to go out and ask for help.
We've got about a minute left, and so let's quickly chat about how a continuing resolution will impact the NDAA. Let's say they get their stuff together and we sign the NDAA into law, November. Let's be optimistic. What happens if there are no appropriations?
So the way it kind of feels up on Capitol Hill is a continuing resolution and the threat of government shutdown kind of takes all the oxygen out of the room. That's all folks are going to be focused on is the negotiation for appropriations. The other challenge with the NDAA is it's just an authorization. There's no money tied to the NDAA. So things that could be authorized in the NDAA may not be.
Like the restoration of BAH?
Right.
Yeah.
Or improvement to enlisted pay that some appropriators really want to work on. All of that is on hold. So it is. It's a frustrating event because it leaves a lot of folks thinking, wow, could you just keep your own schedule? If you keep your own schedule, it prevents a lot of turmoil for military families and service members, but it also prevents wasting tax dollars. And that's what we try to communicate is how wasteful these practices are.
Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate your insights on continuing resolutions and the entire process. If you want to get engaged, visit our Legislative Action Center, click the Pay Our Coast Guard Act, and urge your lawmakers to support that legislation. It'll make sure that they get their paycheck during a government shutdown. If you want to tune into more videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.